biggest difference was learning how to understand what the hell my feelings and energy and thoughts meant. How to see them not as a reflection of who I am, like I am depressed, but as information. My body is experiencing depression. My body doesn't have enough energy. My thoughts are really unclear. That means my energy is really disorganized, because then feelings and emotions stop defining you so much and they're not so scary anymore. So what I want to do today is try my best to make it easier for you to understand your depression as information and not as a definition of who you are and all you can be and the situation that you're stuck in for life. Because it can really feel like that. 4 examples of depression you might have based on different energy problems that you're having in your body. I want you to pick the story that sounds closest to what you're experiencing and then skip ahead in the video, because for each experience of depression, I'm going to explain the energy dynamic, immediate practices you can do to shift your experience, long-term practices you can do to shift your experience in a big way, noticeable signs of improvement that you can watch for, because there's so many different aspects of ourselves that we can pay attention to. It's very easy to be looking in the wrong spot and missing the signs that good things are happening. And as a bonus, for the practices, I'm also going to tell you which ones you can measure and see the change of by using a free app that takes your heart rate and tells you what your heart rate variability is, which is your heart's ability in that moment to handle all of the stressors that you are under. The higher the number, the better you're doing. If this is your first time watching a video from me, hi, I'm Nikki. This is a good time for you to understand that I love neurobiology and bioelectric fields. The 4 depression energies that we're getting into are based on different states of energy that you'll have depending on the energy and coherence in your bioelectric field. If you want to deep dive to make sure you really understand what coherence and energy mean, you can check out some of the introductory videos that I have. The short version of it is that every single cell in your body has its own tiny bioelectric field, and they all link together to make a giant bioelectric field that you have right now. When these bioelectric fields are communicating well together, you have coherence. It's like a conversation that 2 or more people are having where they just stop and start at the right times and they're in flow mode. When these bioelectric fields are struggling and out of sync, you have incoherence. This is a conversation where people are talking way too much and interrupting each other and fighting over politics. The depression energies that we're talking today are a mix of high coherence or low coherence and high energy or low energy. When I talk about energy, it's your experience and whether or not you feel like you can go do a task or not. Even though I'm not getting into it, I'm speaking from the perspective of actual electrical energy that is running through your body right now. The first type of depression you might be experiencing is the shutdown. Imagine Sam. He used to feel totally full of life and engaged with his tasks. Lately, it's feeling like life is happening without him. His mind is totally foggy, and even trying to get out of bed can feel impossible. He is completely shut down. He is completely disconnected from the world and from himself right now. Due to the lack of energy in his system, he might even be feeling emotionally numb. Next, we have the stuck gear. Grace knows what she needs to do. She can think clearly, but she can't seem to get moving. Her energy is so low that she feels like she is stuck in neutral and feels very frustrated, like she should be able to push through like everyone tells her to, but she just can't. Now, the next 2 examples of depression are going to be a little bit more interesting and nuanced, because traditionally, depression means to press down upon, making us think of someone who just has no energy. But the way that we use words is related to our personal experience and not the experience of others. So sometimes we can feel invalidated when we feel like we're experiencing depression, yet our symptoms don't match the symptoms that other people are talking about. So these 2 types of depression actually come with high energy. We have the chaos spiral. Dash has 1,000 different thoughts in his head and none of them are organized. He can't sit still. He's extremely restless. He feels completely overwhelmed and he can't take action in any sort of meaningful way. Dash's experience is that he is spiraling out of control, and this would be what people might call an anxiety-based depression. Anxiety would typically be associated with having energy that is really disorganized. Finally, we have the pressure cooker. Claire has laser focus, but it is all on negative thoughts. She is caught in intense rumination and she can't seem to let anything go. It feels like she has an enormous force pushing down on her that's refusing to let her relax. Claire has a lot of energy, but she is emotionally exhausted. People who are experiencing depression with a high amount of energy are also more likely to be experiencing extreme sensory sensitivities, such as with sound and light. At this point, do you feel like you're experiencing the shutdown, the stuck gear, the chaos spiral, or the pressure cooker. I'm going to be sitting down on my computer and going over a lot of information, and your brain is going to get overwhelmed and you're going to remember the wrong information if you watch all 4 sections for the sake of. Please skip ahead in this video and find the section that's most relative to you. After you've watched the section or sections that feel most relative to you, I want you to skip ahead in the video again and join back in on the conversation. I'm going to share some more information about your life that's equally relative to everybody, no matter which experience of depression they're having.
I'm not going to read literally everything out loud, so if you're just listening to this video in the background, this would be the time to pop in and pay attention to the text that's on the screen. Starting with the shutdown, this is the stereotypical depression that's characterized by low coherence and low energy. Coherence in this case meaning your ability to organize information, be connected with yourself and your senses, and to think. Immediate practices that you can do to feel better include breathing exercises, light physical movement, and splashing cold water on your face. I really like power breathing or Wim Hof breathing as I find that it focuses my energy, clears my head, makes sounds literally sound clearer, and gives me a boost of energy. In the long term, if you're trying to get your energy up and your body more coherent, you're going to find mindful movement like yoga, tai chi, or qigong really helpful because activities that engage your full body and make demands on you, like being able to balance, are activating different parts of your brain and helping to get them all in line together at the same time so they can practice communicating clearly, which is what increases coherence. If that's not your thing, you can also increase your energy and coherence with traditional activities like brisk walking or cycling. You can also do daily journaling or body scans. These ones aren't going to improve your energy, but they are going to help with the coherence. If you are in the shutdown, the progress sign you want to look for is that it's going to feel a little bit easier to initiate small, light tasks like getting out of bed or answering someone's question without feeling totally overwhelmed. This is so subtle that as the shift happens, it will be very easy for you to miss. If you miss it, you'll be more likely to stop doing these activities that are helping your body feel better. If you are the stuck gear, you have low energy but high coherence. This is what I experienced when I was doing a Fiverr gig where the time zones made it so that I was up in the middle of the night. I thought it would be okay as long as I just stopped waking up at 4 in the morning, and it was not okay. I became the person who refused to go out on a walk and wanted to just lie down on the couch and sleep. If you are experiencing this right now, little practices you can do to feel better right away are just giving yourself permission to go outside for 5 minutes. If it's sunny, that is the best. But even if it's not sunny, it's still going to help wake you up a little bit. Slow breathing and just drinking water and having a nice healthy snack is going to help too. I like activities like box breathing because there's literally no excuse not to do them. You can practice box breathing while you're sitting at your computer, driving in your car, sitting on the bus, waiting in line, at the park with your child. Anywhere you are, as long as you're not the person talking, you can be doing box breathing and nobody's going to notice. For the stuck gear, long-term practices you might find beneficial include strength training or resistance training exercises, rhythmic cardio like swimming or dancing, and a consistent sleep routine. The sleep routine is especially important because that specifically helps your nervous system so that it can more efficiently manage the energy that you have. Rhythmic cardio like dancing is really cool because not only does it improve your energy, but full body movement helps get different parts of your brain online at the same time so they can practice getting in better coherence together. The stuck gears progress sign is that it's going to be less resistance between you and the task that you want to start. There's going to be less of looking at something and mentally telling yourself, I will do that tomorrow. The chaos spiral is high energy and low coherence, meaning you have a lot of energy and you actually could be getting a lot done. But because of that low coherence, you can't think straight. You can't connect all of the information in your head properly while you're trying to decide what the best task is to do. Practices that are immediately helpful for the chaos spiral include grounding techniques, box breathing, and journaling. I like activities like box breathing because there's literally no excuse not to do them. You can practice box breathing while you're sitting at your computer, driving in your car, sitting on the bus, waiting in line, at the park with your child. Anywhere you are, as long as you're not the person talking, you can be doing box breathing and nobody's going to notice. Journaling is helpful when you have low coherence because the information isn't getting organized in your head, but that doesn't mean that you can't put it out on paper and literally connect the dots with your pencil and figure out how the information fits together consciously. The long-term practices that will be the most helpful for someone in the chaos spiral are meditation or mindfulness, structured exercise, or creative expression meditation, that's going to be the one that lifts up your coherence enough to help you get control of all of that energy that you are struggling to deal with. If that's really not your thing, that structured exercise of martial arts or running is another form of teaching self discipline. Creative expression is an interesting option because it's a little bit different than the other two. When you are getting your feelings and thoughts and energy, when you're getting your feelings and thoughts out of your body and focusing them through painting or video creation or podcasting or anything creative, you're turning on different parts of your brain. If you're painting, you're doing fine motor control with your hand. You're also working on color theory and finding physical representations that symbolize what you're dealing with in your head. This activates a lot of different regions in your brain that are not normally on together, gives them a chance to all touch base about whatever the thing is that you're struggling with and to communicate their information efficiently, helping you feel like you are more resolved with this problem that you are working through. This increases coherence. The progress sign for the chaos spiral is that you are gaining better focus and control over racing thoughts. You have less emotional overwhelm and more ability to organize your actions. All of these things that I said are very subtle. Finally, we have the pressure cooker. This is a really unique form of depression because it's coming with high energy and high coherence, meaning that if you could just get your attention off of the negative and reframe it towards the positive, you would have the makings of the Jungian archetype of the hero. No pressure though. Immediate practices that you're going to find helpful if you are in the pressure are progressive muscle relaxation, deep, slow breathing, and a gratitude practice. Unlike the other forms of depression, which focus more on raising energy, your focus is more on directing your energy and letting a little bit of it go. I like activities like box breathing because there's literally no excuse not to do them. You can practice box breathing while you're sitting at your computer, driving in your car, sitting on the bus, waiting in line, at the park with your child. Anywhere you are, as long as you're not the person talking, you can be doing box breathing and nobody's going to notice. In the long term, if you are in the pressure cooker, you might find it helpful to take up vigorous physical exercise like HIIT or cycling, doing visualization or guided imagery, or doing journaling that's focused on self-reflection. These examples like journaling are really important because when we are stuck in a loop of negative thoughts, in that moment, it is very easy to feel like these thoughts and these emotions we're having are extremely justified. But at nighttime, if we look back on the day and we're looking from the outside, it's a lot easier to see then that the thoughts that we were having aren't necessarily true and that there's a different perspective we could take that would help us handle those situations better. The progress sign that the pressure cooker is going to want to look for is feeling relief from overthinking with an ability to relax or take breaks without feeling like you're always on edge or overly focused on those negative outcomes. Like all of the progress signs I've gone over, this one is going to be subtle, especially because yours is more a relief from a certain kind of thinking. It's going to be important for you to recognize what's going on that's supporting this relaxation that you're finally getting to experience. Is it because you're really engrossed in a task, or are you out in nature? Or is it the morning that's before you picked your phone up? Is it when you take a shower? What helps your brain most naturally shift off of the negative thoughts right now?
You might have been attracted to this video because when we're talking about the energy of depression, the practices that we're dealing with are all very holistic and natural. That's my focus because I really like understanding the world from the perspective of bioelectricity. However, that does not mean that I'm saying medication is a horrible thing. I would like to make it very clear right now that if you are struggling, trying out medication does not define in any way who you are, and it may be a very revealing experience. I'd like to take a moment to share about how much I learned when I was on ADHD medication. I had literally never been interested in it until the moment that the psychologist asked me. What pinged in my head is that this would be a really amazing opportunity to experience myself and my life from a different state of consciousness. That was really integral to my development. It really allowed me to ground in the fact that how I experience my son or another person depends entirely on how I'm feeling, on what my state of mind is. When I was on medication, I kind of got to test my future. I got to see that, oh, I've gone from having 40 conflicting thoughts in my head that literally would interrupt each other like every half a second. It was insane, to getting to experience life with a perfectly calm mind. the first time that I tried the medication. It allowed me to perceive the gradients in our conscious experience, having a lot of thoughts to no thoughts, feeling blissful, feeling awful, all of these different dualistic structures. Then when I quit medication, I had a very clear idea of what it was that I was working towards because I'd already experienced it. It's like the difference between someone telling you to drive to a random town you've never been to, you're not allowed to use GPS, and you just have to know when you get there, versus having already visited that place and knowing you want to be there and knowing how to get there. You have the map and you're just starting out from your home at the beginning of the road trip. I'm not trying to persuade anyone to take medication. My goal is just to give permission to anyone who's trapped under a limiting belief that says they can't have medication, that it would somehow ruin them or define them in some terrible way. The next thing I want to touch on is understanding energy drains in your life. Even if you are a star and you go and do those short-term practices for your health, and then you take up those long-term practices and you stick to them 100%, you're going to find out that in your everyday life, people and circumstances are always trying to take your energy. They're always trying to disorganize and make you scattered. This is not something that's inherently terrible. It's just the way that life is. Likely, balancing out your energy is going to mean doing practices that give you energy or calm and focus. And it is also going to mean recognizing that you need to start saying no to certain people who are always bringing too much chaotic energy into your life. I found that the thoughts in your head can actually be pretty directly reliable about what is causing you conflict in life. If conflict is whether or not it's okay to buy paper muffin cups because they're bad for the environment, it does point to the fact that your values are so unclear that you don't know how to make the choice of whether or not this is okay for you, because you believe there's some sort of objective truth that you're trying to find, and there's not. The thoughts we're repressing that come out when we get really angry, there is a kernel of truth in them. Just like the thoughts that you're having if every single thing you look at is telling you that you need to break up with your boyfriend, that's happening for a reason. If you just had the one thought that said you need to break up with your boyfriend, it would be really simple. But immediately other thoughts glom onto that and the conflict starts. It becomes impossible to tell which thought is the one I'm supposed to follow, because this one says to break up with my boyfriend, but this thought's full of love and accepting everybody. So if I want to be that person, that means I should not break up with my boyfriend. If I could give you the secret on what I've done to gain clarity in my life when I don't know what to do, is I just do something. I felt really conflicted about whether or not to send my son back to school this semester, so I just took him out for the semester and said, hey, I'm going to find out what happens. I cried every day for the first 7 days, but fast forward just over a month, and this was the best decision I could have possibly made for him and I in the unique situation that we have. I just had to be brave enough to understand that the thought conflict meant I needed to take an action. I needed to choose to value one thing over the other and then see what happens, and know that I can always change my mind again later. I hope you figured out whether you're struggling with the shutdown, the stuck gear, the chaos spiral, or the pressure cooker. Whatever you are experiencing right now, I promise you, it is not permanent. If you need additional help, you can always consult a professional. You can be brave enough to take action and see how your life changes. Don't be afraid to try medication. It's not forever and it will not define you. It will give you an interesting experience of life. I know I'm supposed to ask you to subscribe to my channel and watch other videos, but what I really want you to do is comment with the type of depression you think you're experiencing and which practice you are going to go do immediately after you stop this video. Thanks.